And now you can leave your laptops and your coffee and writing utensils and jacket at where you're sitting, and we're going to meet outside to do an outdoor investigation. So we'll meet you outside in 5 minutes. Just kidding.
That would be nice.
Are we next?
Yeah, but just whoops. I got to click on the screen here.
Okay. Mark and I have a background in environmental education. Mark also was a classroom teacher, and I've worked with schools for about over 25 years. We have two perspectives that we're bringing to this webinar. One is an environmental perspective, really looking at environmental issues and problems from a place-based perspective. This is a great quote from one of the learning theorists and environmental education professionals he's pretty well known, David Stovall. He said in this book, schools can be the epicenter for environmental change in their communities and motivate civic officials to take action. And by using kids and working through students and with students to create constructive and effective and meaningful and relevant change, people do respond to the fact that it's led by students, and I'm sure you're all aware of that. And as he states, there's no dearth of problems to take on. From the education perspective, this is from an earlier document by the National Research Council that students have to be challenged by problem solving to be rewarded, with kind of like the achievement of the struggle. And when they're involved with the struggle directly, they feel the benefits of actually directing their own learning and benefiting from their learning. I did.
You wouldn't do that one?
I did.
Oh, okay. So go
yeah, there you go. Okay. This is the introduction to the middle school standards, or part of the introduction from the Next Generation Science Standards. And this is the how do human activities affect our systems is the part of the standard that we'll be focusing on during this session. And we're going to be focusing on these two sub-ideas mentioned in paragraph 2, and basically focusing on how human activity and human systems that we create because of our needs and activities affect natural systems and Earth-related activities, Earth systems. We will be focusing on three-dimensional learning, which is tying in with not just with the core ideas, but with also cross-cutting concepts. And so the content that you'll be hearing about today focuses on patterns, cause and effect, and also we'll be touching on skills and concepts that are tied in with the interdependence of science, engineering, and technology. The standard that we'll be specifically focusing on is to apply scientific principles to design a method for monitoring and minimizing human activity on the environment. This slide references the science and engineering practices that we'll be focusing on, specifically the disciplinary core ideas and the cross-cutting concepts. Everything that we recommend in here for exploring environmental issues also supports environmental literacy, which gets the kids involved with conducting research, asking questions, answering questions, generating data and information, and drawing on information from several resources to focus on an investigation or a project. And then continuing on with that idea, we also listed here there are two concepts that are part of the connections related to engineering, technology, and science. You can read them here. One deals with human activities and how we affect natural systems and those short and long-term impacts that human activities has on natural resources and natural systems, and also emphasizing the use of technologies.
It's not showing the right slides. Oh, okay.
Okay. What we wanted to do was to begin with you, the individual. So we're just talking to each of you as teachers, as fellow human beings, no matter what our age right now, no matter what, where we are located in New Jersey, no matter what gender we are, what ethnicity, what our education levels are, what our income is. We all have a lot in common, but one of the things that we have in common is our dependence on the planet. And I just need to always, whenever I work with people, I always want to remind them of that let's start with me, the individual. When we were born, the minute we're born and become independent of our mothers, we become dependent on the planet for oxygen, water, nutrition, nutrients, and through food, and also warmth and shelter, and all of those basic needs that we'll be getting into. But I like to remind everybody of that. This is referenced most strongly in kindergarten, and if I had one change I'd love to change is that this with the standards is just making sure that this is integrated into more science as the kids get older. This basic idea.
Now, to go along with that the last group of comments that Tanya made, we have this slide here that's basic needs and relationships with. The individuals in the center represent us as individuals, and I did speak with I know that you are mostly middle school science teachers. I did speak with 2 teenage middle schoolers, my children, and made sure that we have what they consider to be the most important basic needs. And so I shall remove these little boxes here. My son said his most basic need was a toy. Then I reminded him that it had to do with keeping himself alive. And he then said food and money to buy the toys and the food. My daughter brought up love and family. My son then pointed out we all need tools to do our jobs, a house in which to live, transportation to get to where we want to go, clothing, places to go, people to go with, and of course I had to remind them that we all need air, water, and warmth or energy. Now, to coincide with this slide.
Right, before we leave this slide, just if you can look at the array of what's here, I know you know that all of these things in pretty much unlimited ways tie back in with natural resources and have impacts on natural systems. But I like to, when I'm working with kids directly, ask them if they can select items, objects from this. These are hints at what they have around the house that don't have any dependence on the environment in order to be created or used. And it's very hard, near impossible, to think of anything. And that's why it's important. This is the bare building. Part of the building blocks for discussing environmental issues is just that fact that reliance on natural resources and on natural systems is important to us for so many reasons.
Relating to all the things that are on the page here, there wasn't an item here, well, except for maybe love, that you don't either grow. Well, that does grow. Love does grow. You either didn't grow it, or if you didn't grow it, you had to mine it. So anything here had to either come from the ground itself, growing in the ground, or below the ground, with the exception of the air, which is above the ground. So now we'll focus on the state of New Jersey and what it offers to us in terms of the natural resources. If you take away the human element from the state of New Jersey, these are the things that are already listed here. You have comments we want to make? Air,
The atmosphere.
Water.
Yeah, so we call water resources surface water, groundwater, salt water, estuaries,
Land.
fields, woods.
Wildlife. My mouse keeps disappearing. Forests. And the topography of the land, which in many places, for example, southern Jersey and the Pinelands, is relatively flat, and in the north we have more rugged terrain, waterfalls, and even geological features that hint to our past, such as these rock here, a glacial erratic, found left over after 15,000 years of the Ice Age.
So just if you can do this, this is going to turn out to be like a brainstorming and activity that you can do with your kids. And we're just laying out the landscape of New Jersey, but we know that there are different regions, natural regions or ecosystems. New Jersey is divided up into various ways, but it's based on the living and non-living components of that particular region. So we're not just talking about the flora and fauna, but the soil and the topography, as Mark mentioned, as well as the geology and water resources that are in that area.
Now, all of those relate to the individual. So I'll bring back the ones that we had for the me, and we can see the connections between these. For example, food can clearly be connected to wildlife, because in many cases some people do eat wildlife. Much of our food is domesticated animals, but some people, for example, fish are usually not domesticated. We can then relate the energy here to the forests and the burning of fuels, wood, or geological resources, the burning of coal or oil. You can look at the home and connect that to the wood that was made into the home. So each of these is connected to the other one. So the me is dependent upon where you live. We're going to now add a little bit to it. Oh, okay.
And when you're at this point of just showing connections and interdependencies, we know that's there's a sustainability encourages us to have use local products and buy local food, local building products, and so on. And in many cases, we are using local water resources. For this activity, we don't need to get into that, but when you do start getting into the details of this, it's very complicated. And showing how complex meeting human needs is one thing that this activity is going to show. So we know that when kids or families are getting their food sources met, most of the time it's being grown somewhere. Is it being grown in New Jersey? More often not. But there are many places in New Jersey where food is being grown. So part of our land use in the New Jersey pillar is agriculture. But New Jersey, when it comes to us meeting our food needs, it could come from many locations.
Now we'll throw all of you in here as well and make it us. So when we're referring to us, now our needs are a little bit different. We each have our individual needs, but as a group, we have other needs as well.
And that group could be a housing development, a community, a municipality, a county. So as you get bigger and bigger, the footprint, the level of complex activities in that region or that area gets more complicated.
So every time I add something here, think back to the other items that are already listed in the me and the New Jersey and see how it's connected. So I'll add a few of these items. Health, welfare, and medical care. The dynamics of transportation and development. So you can relate immediately that to the environmental impact it's going to have on the natural habitat, as well as, oops, don't need that yet, as the fact that each of these people also will like to be able to travel around. We have our water and our water infrastructure, so that you have not only your fresh sources of water, which in the case of New Jersey, we have reservoirs, we have the Delaware River, we have wells, but all of that water that we utilize, which is potable water, a lot of that becomes gray water or black water, and then needs to be treated so that we're not polluting the environment with those types of, with that water, and some of that water can then go back and be used again.
So what we're talking about here with the water slide is simply the systems that bring water to our home and school and businesses, that's clean drinking water, and then the system of wastewater treatment that brings water away to be treated unless you have a septic. So we call that wastewater treatment, and that's what this slide is of. The other water system that we didn't have a slide here for is stormwater, and that's a series of pipes underground that has to do with removing rainwater so that we prevent flooding in communities. But these are all systems that humans put in place to have our needs met, but it does all have an impact on natural resources and usually on the resource itself.
Now to add communications.
Technology.
Okay, waste.
And this includes
disposal,
solid
waste, right,
and hazardous materials, hazardous waste, and construction debris.
And the last one on here is representing recreation, and our need for getting out and doing things outdoors, plus the other infrastructure that's involved in that. That's why little Smokey Bear pictures there. Now the last pillar here represents the different issues. Now unfortunately this is in the way. Move that over. And bring up some of those issues. Now these again relate to
what we do here is usually I do this on a smartboard or on a chalkboard or on a big whiteboard if I'm in a classroom. We ask the kids, what typical environmental issues do you read about in the newspaper? So we begin by brainstorming from the kids what issues are they concerned with, or what issues are they aware of. So the slides here are what typically middle school, high school students might suggest.
Such as litter and water pollution.
Illegal dumping, non-point source pollution is water-based litter and chemicals.
Air pollution, smog, soot, particulates, right. This represents deforestation.
And this is also a form of habitat destruction. Development is very common in New Jersey, and it is
urban
the number
sprawl.
one threat to habitat, healthy habitat for wildlife. And so if it becomes too much of a threat, then we have a threatened species, and then we have an endangered species.
And lastly, radioactive or nuclear waste products.
Or hazardous waste material. Where is it stored? Where is it stored compared to communities and schools? So that's just a sampling. There's a lot more issues. The thing about having 4 pillars like this on this slide and having most of this generated from the kids is that now when you take any one of these issues on the right side, you will be able to connect the go back to human uses, the me column, and what do humans contribute, what natural resources are affected, and that's in the New Jersey column. And then when you think about the systems of many people either purchasing items that would be considered to be hazardous waste or using chemicals, in an industry, in a school, in a home, and disposing of it, then all of a sudden it becomes a very large issue because of many people using it. So that ties in with us. By breaking down a specific issue and looking at how it ties in with human needs and meeting human needs of many people, it sort of diffuses the idea that, well, that kids are changing, wanting to change or feeling affected by something that doesn't have to do with them, because these issues are from all of us. We are all a part of, we as humans are all a part of these issues. And it begins to be a roadmap sort of for how do you implement change. How do you change an issue, whether you reduce it or you prevent it or you address it in some other way. This is a quote. David Orr is another good education theorist, an environmental educator, professor, and author, and he's coined the phrase ecological literacy quite a few years ago, and has done 2 or 3 books now on tying in ecological literacy with education. But he and David Sobel are supporters, proponents of place-based education. And I love this description here. Places are laboratories of diversity and complexity, mixing social functions, human functions, which we've already talked about, with natural processes. We know that the place where you are located right now, watching this webinar, as well as your schools, your homes, your schools, that place right around your building, right around wherever it is you are right now, has human history, and it has its own geologic and natural past. It's part of a system. It's part of many systems. It's part of many systems that are natural systems as well as human-made systems, many of which we already showed in that last activity with the pillars. So your location is part of a natural landscape with other living things around you, and you're also part of a location that has other humans around you, and all of you are connected with these various systems. Some are mentioned here: societal, economic, political. You and the homes around you, or if you're at the school, you and the buildings around you all have drinking water coming in and wastewater going out. You're all using energy and connected for that. You all have your trash being picked up and your recycling. These are all massive systems that have been put into place. And they all have, there's many flaws and issues and problems related to these systems and their effects on natural resources. The main idea is at the bottom, that paragraph, the classroom and indoor laboratory, which is where most of the time science activities can function. Those are perfect environments to focus on very specific things. But the school itself and the property of the school, as well as the community, the neighborhoods right around the school, provide students with immediate, hands-on, right out the back door opportunities for experiential learning and investigations that can involve many disciplines. And they would be doing that while working on a problem. And that's pretty much what our foundation is for this session. Another, we're going to give you a little more familiarity with place and New Jersey and different attributes of New Jersey. Wendell Berry is another learning theorist and environmentalist. Some of you may be familiar with him, and an author. It's a great quote: if you don't know where you are, you don't know who you are. I think we know that where you live, the place where you are right now, change is happening. How many of you have driven back to where you grew up? I drive home from work and I see construction happening, and my first thought is, what was there? And I can't sometimes find in my little brain what actually was torn down, or what changes, what used to be there when a new building is going up.
This is a good resource here. You can utilize things like Google Earth historical images. if you go to Google Earth or any of these sites that do have historical images, and you set overlays for your own community, you can see the times when before your house was created or before your school was built. And see older images that show examples. Most of New Jersey was farmland at some point. Much of the existing forest in New Jersey now had been farmland in the past. Over the hundreds of years, the last few hundred years, 300 years, most of this New Jersey was farmland communities. And although the photographs don't go back that far, you can have that kind of research, and you can see the change. As a matter of fact, in Google Earth, if you just go back 20 years, you can see massive amounts of changes in many communities. An example here, we have just the changes in populations. And each of those people will need the same resources.
Change is often growth, and growth and change often are construction as well as destruction. And while we encourage reuse and smart growth in New Jersey, reusing properties that have already been disturbed and developed, there still are needs for developing what was once farmland or open spaces.
But there's also a need to preserve those same open spaces.
Mm-hmm. In change at a small scale in your neighborhoods and communities, if you read local papers and kind of monitor changes going on, taxes, things that your municipal councils deal with, symptoms of change that next to last bullet have to do with the finances, economics of your community, what are the business needs, aesthetics, what do people appreciate, value about in the community, and in terms of the residents, what's important, history, culture, commerce, what are the basic functions and needs that people need, and how spread out is the community itself, and what's the layout. The bigger areas that are affected long term are, when environmental issues come into play. The bigger things that are often affected are environmental quality, so that's water quality, air quality, the quality of soil if there's some kind of contamination underground, the quality of food that's grown, what we use, chemicals, our chemicals that we use and how they're applied to food sources. Those things begin to tie in and overlap with public health. There's many overlaps between health and environmental quality. The community itself, how our people identify with it and what you value of the community can be affected, and also the overall quality of life.
Relating back to the comment in the beginning, if you don't know where you are, you don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. I know where I am. But I do know actually a little more. I do know that we are all right now in New Jersey, although people listening to this webinar at a later date may not be. This is a satellite image of the state of New Jersey. It is the 5th smallest state in the United States. We are a peninsula with the Hudson River and Atlantic Ocean to our east, the Delaware River to the west, Delaware Bay to the south, and an arbitrary border between New Jersey and New York, being our only land connection to the rest of the continental United States, our northern border. This satellite image can be better interpreted if through another series of images. We are, as I said, the 5th smallest state in the country, but in terms of area, we are the most populated. Even though we are the most populated state in area, there are areas in New Jersey which are very sparsely populated. You can see by this map here that this region in here, down here, these green areas, and up along the Delaware River here at High Point and Stokes and Worthington State Forests, the population density is very minor. While here, Hudson County and our New York border along the Hudson River is greater than 5,000 persons per square mile. This doesn't give you the actual accurate number. Actually, Hudson River here, as far as the last, I think it was a 2004, 2005 census, was 18,000 people per square mile, which is clearly greater than 5,000 anyway. To give you a better idea and a better visual of this population density, I have this image. And with this image, this is a photograph, satellite photograph of New Jersey taken at night. You can clearly see the border here with New York and the line heading down into Philadelphia. This is an extremely populated area. I believe that including up into the Connecticut and down into Delaware, about 10% of the United States population exists right here.
Northeast corridor.
And you can see along the eastern shore, I like to basically, I'm going to move this so I can get to the other one. Compare here, this region here, very little light down here compares to this region here. This is actually Wharton State Forest, covering much of that region. So that is, and the Pinelands, not very sparsely populated. Again, up here in Sussex County, very sparsely populated. But you can clearly see where the population densities are great, and a very nice little beacon here for Atlantic City. We did mention open space earlier. New Jersey has a large percentage of the state is open space, and even though we are the 5th smallest state in the United States, approximately 1/4 of our land area is very sparsely populated and protected. Anything else about open space?
Just regarding open space, the owners of open space vary. That particular slide.
What's going on here?
That particular slide represents what's state-owned property, whether it be fish and wildlife management areas, state forests, and state parks. We also have Green Acres properties. Many of you probably all live in a community that has at least one Green Acres property, which usually is I believe it's like state monies that are combined with county and municipal funds. And I believe the property is usually administered by the municipality or county once it's purchased. But anyways, there are also federal landowners in the state of New Jersey, along with your own municipalities and counties. So open space collectively is something that we continue to strive to protect and preserve in the state.
Now, we've mentioned earlier, New Jersey is a very wet state. When you have 46 inches of rain per year, you have a lot of that water on the ground, and it has to go somewhere. These are the major rivers and streams in the state of New Jersey. Approximately 400 miles of what is known as Category 1 riverways exist in the state. Those are riverways that are protected. And that protection actually first started with bills and petitions by fishermen. This last image is one we're all very familiar with. Actually, fewer people are familiar with the paper maps now than are with GPS, but this is a map that shows all the roadways in New Jersey. There are over about 500 miles of rail line in New Jersey and over 5,000 miles of highways.
I know Mark used to, one of our tasks and responsibilities at DEP used to be assisting with maps and publication sales. And I was amazed. One day we did, so many of the maps are available electronically, but Mark wanting to, we had thousands of maps that needed to be recycled or used it. We got the permission to be used for classroom purposes, and Mark was able to give away hundreds of sets of maps. And I was just glad. I just encourage you, if you don't use maps in your classroom, that you do so, and you can still get a lot of hard copy maps. And I also wanted to mention that DEP makes available to you GIS-based information, geographic information, electronically. These are data layers. Everything that you looked at, these series of 6 maps, is available electronically, and your students can access information in your computer lab on their computers. And if you contact us separately, we can get you in touch with our GIS staff to let you know how you can do that if you aren't doing it. But having a foundation, a geographic foundation of land use, where resources are, where humans are, all that information is just the greatest bedrock for exploring local environmental issues and problems, because half of the information, most of what you need, is available through documents like this and online information that's available through GIS.
You mentioned bedrock. I know you didn't mention it in the same way I'm thinking, but the Geological Survey still does offer the bedrock and surficial geology maps as printed posters, as well as online digital resources. The posters are available on our website. You'll see the websites at the end of this presentation, and you'll be able to access them. This presentation will be recorded and is being recorded and will be on YouTube, and the PowerPoints will be on the DEP's website. Those PowerPoints will be interactive, and you can click on the links to get to the resources we're mentioning.
And before we leave this slide, because I won't mention GIS again, the software programs that use GIS information allows your students to access it at a different level. They can manipulate data, and at the kind of like the highest level, students can collect data and use GIS as a way of collecting your own data, like a profile about an issue, a project, a community profile, and they can, begin to collect data over time in that system and compare it over the years or through the seasons, and it just has a lot of great value there. What we're doing next is just highlighting. We're kind of going to the end result. Our familiarity, one of the ways that we work with the results of what you as teachers do in the classroom is by recognizing students and schools for their work. And we selected several examples of middle school students who have worked through their classroom science activities, and as a result conducted investigations, projects that are science-based and have led to some type of change, some type of problem solving, or some type of reduction or prevention of whatever it was that they were addressing. Alder Avenue Middle School, well, first of all, we sponsor the Governor's Environmental Excellence Awards. And in 2012, we recognized Egg Harbor Township. So just the bullets here, the information here covers a wide variety of things. This is a Green Ribbon Schools winner. So this school is one of the earlier, let's say, pioneers in New Jersey. It's a public school that made a commitment at the district level to take on green practices, and they began to see results from the school's commitment, from the district's commitment in energy savings, and knew that their footprint for the energy and resources that it was using were being reduced, and they were saving money. At the same time, they were studying, and the kids were studying through the science program about the local natural resources. This is place-based education, and the kids were beginning to initiate projects on their own and designing activities, projects that, they kind of asked their questions. they cited a problem or an issue that they wanted to be involved with, and they went through the procedures of addressing it, and it culminated in results on the school property. That last bullet in particular emphasizes initiatives that were student-led, and I believe the students took it upon themselves to increase the volume of materials that they recycled in their school recycling program.
We will be mentioning other Governor's Environmental Excellence Awards winners. We just want to let you know that the full list of all of the winners is on the website, on the DEP's website, and you can look at all the different winners over the last 15 years and see what they've accomplished. For every year, there has been at least one environmental education winner, sometimes more, and we haven't listed them all here. So it's on the DEP's website. It's listed at the end as well.
Mark, you want to talk about this here?
Sure. Besides having award winners, we also have on the DEP's website, which is the education website, SEEDS, the listing of a variety of different lesson plans and activities. This activity is known as SAMP, or the Student Air Monitoring Project. It was developed through a grant through the EPA, and we've modified it so that it is what we consider New Jerseyized. Each of the schools that participate, and you can sign up online through the website to participate in this project, receives an electronic device known as an ethylometer, which is this image on the bottom left. The ethylometer basically is a unit that when you take it out, it has an input and a filter, and it monitors particulates that are in the air, mostly carbon, black carbon, or smog, soot. The unit is then plugged into your computer. There's a downloaded program that comes with this, and you can then get the data, and then that data is then analyzed, and we have the lesson plans online. The ethylometers are available for 2 weeks at a time, I believe. There's a sign-up sheet online. It's filling up very quickly. We have, I believe, 5 different ethylometers. Each school is permitted to borrow up to 3 of them. The lesson plans, the rubric, and the evaluation sheets are all on the website. This has been created for middle school and can be used also for high school.
And one other reason that we tied it in with the program today is because we work with 4 schools to field test, and the lesson itself was written by an education consultant and then field tested by a couple of middle schools in New Jersey and high schools. The picture here is the actual field testing where DEP staff was at the school and the students went outside. They did several air samplings, and then they came back, and we suggest in the lesson, as you'll see later in this presentation, when as part of the action project, to present your findings to any of the stakeholders that are concerned with the issue that you're concerned with, and suggest some solutions. And the students did come to DEP. They used the equipment on their property and collected data. They made their summations and assumptions and gathered their evidence and put together a solution and a plan and proposed all this information to DEP officials, air quality experts, and there was good dialogue between the expertise with the students regarding their findings. So, and that's exactly what we would encourage any school to do that uses this equipment. And so that's one reason we just wanted to show how students were actually used to help contribute to this module, which is still in draft form. So we hope that you guys would consider using it in the next year or two and sending us your input on how to improve on this package.
And when the students were asked what they appreciated the most about doing this, their actual comment was not just using the unit outside and taking measurements. What they found the most amazing was that there were adults listening to them.
This is another excellent Governor's Environmental Excellence Award from last year. Williamstown Middle School. Boy, you know, one science teacher worked with a community leader who was an environmental steward and a master gardener. Both of those programs are run through Rutgers Cooperative Extension. And they started working together to create an environmental club. They started with a small group of middle school students that met during lunch, and now they engage over 150 kids in several activities. The students select the activities. The teacher works with the community leader, who's a volunteer. I believe she's retired, and so she comes to the school often as an assistant, you know, like an educator assistant. And the kids are able to do the research, design, and implement initiatives that are either on school property or in the surrounding community. And this last couple bullets talk about some of those projects that they've already completed. And then you know, in their application for this award, they discuss how those investigations are tied in with their science curriculum, as well as they have an interdisciplinary approach to doing the investigations, such as tying it in with reading and literature and writing.
If you've been looking carefully at the pictures that are on the screen, you can see that the Governor's Environmental Excellence Awards are distributed usually in December, and the winners are encouraged, if they are schools, they are encouraged to bring students. The events have taken place in and around the Trenton area. In this case here, this was at the State Museum, and our commissioner, Bob Martin, was the MC and gave out the awards.
Okay, and this is an example. I know there's many national examples. I know EPA gives out student champion awards, they might call them. There are many national entities that honor K-12 students. This is one particular middle school student who I thought did a lot of impressive work, and I just wanted to use her, Avalon, as an example, the final example, I think, of how kids are recognized for the results of a science-based investigation. In this case, she had a passion, a love for frogs, and I just love, I mean, one of the reasons of doing investigations like this is that it's something in the students' immediate surroundings. It's real to them. This is real to her. She loved frogs. She probably, you know, she loves nature. She loves frogs, and you could see in that second bullet that you know, she would do frog identification and recordings and work with scientists to gather her data and information, and use that also to persuade people and educate people about the value of the species and their habitat needs. And you know, she started this at 9. She's still a kid, and she's already started her own business to raise funds for habitat protection. She donates her profits to several organizations. Most of them, I noticed, had to do with either water quality or habitat protection. So I just thought her work was very impressive, and really was you know, spurred on by her initial science interests that probably started out her back door in her neighborhood or in a local park.
And FYI, 2 species of frogs were identified, 2 new species, I should say, of frogs were identified in New Jersey last year.
Ooh. Oh, I thought, sorry about that. We have one more Governor's Excellence Award winner. This is another middle school environmental club. Very active in Barnegat Bay, and these are kids who live on the barrier island, and there's schools there, and there's been a growing population of jellyfish. These kids were concerned with it. Why are they here? What's going on? What's the possible causes? What's happening, and you know, with the water, whether it is a quality, is it temperature, what's contributing to this phenomenon? The kids did a lot of research, where the teachers pretty much supported and facilitated their learning. They presented to us their research projects, and that's what spurred them on to then educate the public in a variety of ways by doing flyers. They created a play.
They sing a
They
song
do.
too.
Yeah, they tied in the arts with what they learned through science, and then they used education to work with the local community to not use or reduce their use of fertilizer, which is nutrients is one of the contributing factors of increasing this population. So just another great example of science investigations and action and what can actually happen from it. This was a list of just general questions that kids may start asking that are these are place-based questions. We encourage, especially with elementary students first and then middle school, to use the local community, as I mentioned, use the school property as places to ask and question environmental issues and problems. And then kids have a hands-on, tangible, right out the back door ability to be able to study, observe, collect information, conduct interviews with residents, with business owners, and so on. Everything, take photos, you know, everything is there available to them to be able to pursue the questions and curiosities that they have. So, you know, this list is unlimited. You know, questions regarding air quality, water quality, waste production, waste disposal, habitat, what's impacting habitat, how does weather affect the school property, the garden. You could have an issue with erosion. I'm pretty certain, based on my experience, you can have what you think is a very simple issue on the property or in the community, and it will become complicated and complex as kids do study it and learn more about, you know, if you remember back to those 4 pillars. They will begin to connect the dots. They will begin to see relationships and connections, cause and effect, and patterns, which are part of what we said in the standards that this would accomplish.
Learning is a lifelong process, and I want to just point out from something that happened today, these questions are not just the kind of questions that students are going to ask. Adults and teachers can ask the same questions. One of the things that we do in the DEP is answer a series of questions that come in on what is known as the public access line. And today, and speaking from just memory, I received several calls, or we received several calls that I did answer, that dealt with some of the questions that are right here. So we did have a question from someone asking about flooding on a higher property that was flooding down into a lower property. I had a question from a PTA member asking about the rules and regulations for a child bringing in a scorpion into the classroom for show and tell, as well as questions about food and other things in the school property. And so these questions are on a daily basis. We get questions just like these. These are the kind of things that people wonder about. And it starts young.
Good point, Mark. Using place-based education and focusing on local environmental issues and problems that are right out the back door. This is a list of the benefits for students. There's more benefits than we listed here. And these are all things that I'm sure you're familiar with, but we felt the need to share them or review them with you. But you know, I love the second bullet. The process makes learning relevant to their lives. They're learning about things that are going on, that are current issues. It's not something that happened in the past. It's current to their lives and tangible to them, especially if it's in the neighborhood or around their own homes and in their neighborhoods, or it's something near the school, or in the papers, but it's something in your municipality. You have the ability by doing inquiry-based learning, that the students are practicing various skills related to research, identifying relevant, sound, valid information sources, what kind of questions do we ask? What kind of questions do we pursue? Reflecting on what they've gathered, analysis of what they've gathered, debating, discussing, making final decisions, evaluating actions, taking the actions, and so on. We'll get into those, a longer list of skills a little later. The fourth bullet is, I've seen the results, Mark has seen the results of this too. Investigation of a real issue helps students develop a sense of belonging. It ties them in and it anchors them in to their own community with that idea that, hey, I belong here. I am in some ways the cause of the problem. I can be. I can also be part of the solution. I think it encourages ownership and a sense of belonging, and empowering them that in their young lives they can make a positive difference. And at the same time, reality will teach them that they are making negative differences, and that a lot of our actions, most of our actions, have consequences. And change that occurs into a community is often, changes that happen are the results or the consequences of human activity. And in many cases, it's because we're all trying to meet those basic needs or conveniences that we want.
Yes, just remember the me's that we mentioned earlier, and the us's.
There's a lot of literature out now. I'm a practitioner. I think you folks know this much better than I do about the value of open-ended inquiry and having teachers, having you, to the best of your ability in the limits and constraints you have, to more or less facilitate student learning, where you're asking them more questions and guiding them, and they're the ones going out in search of. But I think, and this is just my opinion, that if I were raised that way, or if some of the callers that Mark talked about 2 seconds ago were raised that way, we perhaps wouldn't have the number of calls that we have, where humans are not making those connections when they call and ask us about the problems around them, and they're just quizzical about what they're caused by.
And that is one of the benefits of, if you go through the Next Generation Science Standards, you will see that they focus a lot on just this technique.
Some of the benefits for teachers by using science, using science to do local investigations about the environment and how it's affected by human activities. Environmental problems. The environment is popular. It's been popular for a long time. It's captivating, and no matter where your school is, if you're totally in a built environment, there's buildings everywhere, traffic everywhere, you still have a surrounding environment. You still have natural resources, natural systems that are active around your building, on your property, and in your building. You can still bring your kids outdoors and study it. You can still bring the outdoors into your lab or classroom and study it. It doesn't matter what kind of setting you're in. And that is all interesting to kids. Environment-based instruction, there's a lot of research out there that just by using the environment as a platform, as a theme, as what we call an integrating context for learning, that student performance is improved, student disciplinary issues are reduced, and student absenteeism is reduced, simply because this is a different way of teaching, and it's something that they're curious about and engaged in, and a lot of them really love it and enjoy it. An environment-based study provides a context that they can see, feel, and touch for science investigation. Working on a study with partners in small groups, when the kids work in teams, can help you accomplish a sense of cooperation and build community between kids. I think with middle school kids, getting them to focus on a problem that they all have an interest in, that they all help to select, can help reduce any of the social concerns that can happen during those grades, let's say, between kids, and they maybe can learn to work together because that's what they're focused on.
And to quote someone, a New Jersey native, who we all know and love, who commented to me many years ago, the environment is very important. We all live there. That was Bruce Springsteen.
You will encounter, if you talk about environmental issues and problems, and I've been using the words interchangeably, but there are distinctions between them. In the environmental education world, these are definitions or descriptions that have the source I listed here, but these are similar to other sources. I can't say that if you looked in a dictionary, if you did some Google searching, that these are the descriptions you're going to find. But there are differences between problems and issues. A problem usually can be addressed with a solution. So problems have ways of solving them. Issues are sometimes a little bigger, and the way of solving it is a little more complicated, and it may be unsolvable. And the reason is because people, it ties in with people's needs, people's basic needs, and oftentimes the people have certain values about those needs. So there's a variety of environmental values, how our ethics and values do come into play with an issue. Ethics and values are affected by many things. Each of you here, there's an awesome activity that I do with teachers when we do an in-person professional development workshop. So here's an example. I would have all of you line up, and you're all facing me, and I would read a statement, and the statement is it's an ethical statement, that it's a belief statement, and we would say that you would go on the to the right side of me and stand there if you agree, and you go to the left side of me if you disagree, and eventually everyone finds a place in that line where they feel comfortable, where if they strongly agree, if they're in the middle, or if they disagree mildly or strongly. We then cut the group in half, and we have them partner with an opposite person, and they have to talk to that person and listen to them, and then we pick on people and say, tell us what your partner felt about this particular issue. So a variety of things are going on there, but the phenomenal thing is that there's never an issue with the issues that are given in this lesson plan, intentionally meant to be controversial, that there was never agreement among the teachers. So what comes into play is a person's, maybe their religious beliefs, their cultural background, their upbringing, their financial impacts, their level of education, their sense of family. A lot of parents, if you have kids, you might have concerns over something long term because of how it may affect your kids. So there's many variables that form your values. So
where you live.
So a lot of times when your kids are investigating something, it could be a problem that they can easily resolve, or their resolution may have to do with really working with people to make sure that people have a good understanding of the problem and what is it that they truly believe and feel about it. Now, this is probably the best slide for this presentation. There's many ways of getting from point A to point B. There's a lot of information online and in publications about introducing environmental issues. This is actually this method I embellished with it. The basic bolded statements are from that resource, but there are additional bullets that are from other sources. And when I compare this to what we say we were accomplishing with the measurable, the performance indicators in the next generation science standards, this is a good thumbnail, outline to follow. This would take place over the course. This is a flexible process. It wouldn't happen quickly. This is not something that would happen in one class or several classes. It would happen over the course of time. But the value, the multiple values that are related to it are, I think, phenomenal. And I have a feeling doing something like this is something that a student won't forget in years to come. And hopefully, I think would allow them to practice skills and help develop understandings in them that they would take into, you know, their requirements for college and the workplace setting.
If any of you, as teachers, have not heard of the New Jersey Envirothon, I would definitely encourage you to look into that, because every year the Envirothon addresses an environmental issue, and part of the problem that the students have to accomplish is come up with some of this directly in a presentation that they give to a series of judges, which is only one part of the Envirothon. You can find the Envirothon as a link on the SEEDS website, or you can find the New Jersey Envirothon website directly. We'll make sure that web link goes on at some point onto this PowerPoint.
And just as a quick PS, I believe that most of you are with grades 5 through 8, 6 through 8, middle school, and the Envirothon is for high school. I know we have one high school teacher on this session, but it is something that if you're curious about it, look it up, and you may want to share the information with your high school faculty. So this is a better listing of the skills that students could practice, either would or could practice by doing an environmental investigation of a problem or an issue. There's a good sampling here. This I also pulled together from several sources, but building on the bolded section is from the source in the EE Toolbox, which is a great publication on working with environmental issues. But there are other more recent publications out there that do focus on science and environmental investigations. So you can see here that there's thinking skills and problem-solving skills. What I also like that sneaks in is group process skills by students having to work together with a partner or small groups. You can cultivate and facilitate things in order for them to focus on that common goal. Group communication skills are also, hidden skills in here are just by the fact that they may write about their feelings or perspectives or their activities, and then have to share that information through public speaking or through written, like writing a letter or doing like a video tape and giving it to local officials or presenting it to the school board. And so you have all this evidence or artifacts and a lot of it comes with just how their information is being communicated and shared. And I also love the facilitation skills. What I should have added to this slide too is just leadership skills. As you sit back and watch and work with and coach and coax the various groups of students that you know, and you know their individual personalities, I think you know how you can see them change and evolve when they're working in a group setting, and all of a sudden one particular student may become a leader or a coaxer, and the next coming slides are on assessment and how you can work with the kids to so they know ahead of time that showing good leadership skills, making sure everybody's involved and engaged and kids aren't left out, are things that actually are hidden skills that become extremely valuable in an activity like this.
Also, thank you, Dawn, for your comment.
These are some examples of project and student assessment, really two separate areas, but we just have one slide for it. So we'll look at these, and then we also will tie in, we have two examples of written forms that we'll go through. So, collecting evidence of student work, I'm sure that you as teachers have many other types of evidence that can be tossed into this mix. But there's a lot of visual things, all the artifacts that come from scheduling, conducting interviews, looking at case studies, actually making direct observations. If your kids are doing illustrations and drawings of something, if you develop a worksheet and so they have a good collection of artifacts, and that actually becomes like a portfolio of work that the group has. It also recommends that kids keep an individual journal about their feelings, their own observations about the group, about the activities that they're doing, about and maybe over time, later as part of their self-assessment, did they notice a change in what they became aware of, their own understandings, their own perspectives about something, their own opinion or values regarding something. So then a little later on, you can use a rubric or worksheets to have students evaluate themselves, each other, as well as the feedback and evaluation that you do. You can also gather feedback from the other involved parties, whether you had parents involved or if you brought in community members, local experts to assist. We would encourage you to bring others involved or to help get the kids get connected. Mark and I get a lot of calls from students, by the way, and we ask them questions. We don't give them the answers. We actually work with our staff who answer the phones, and we don't. We will spend time on the phone talking with kids, and we will not just give them exactly what they need, but we kind of make them look for it. We make them make the calls.
Give them clues.
Yeah, we give them clues. We give them direction, but we will not give them the answers.
We're not telling you this so that you send all your students to us with questions.
But we encourage you to have them contact people like us. We're resource people to them. Our fellow employees are resource people to your students. And so they're the ones that are doing the hunting and gathering instead of you. This is one of two simple forms that can be used for assessment, and something you would share with them in advance. I know that some teachers actually work with the kids to develop their own assessment ahead of time. So the kids come up with the questions, how can you measure the performance of the group as individuals and a team? How do you measure the results of the project? The language that you'll see in the next one, in the slide before, is the criteria. Asking the group ahead of time, once they have a question, once they have an issue or a problem that they're addressing, they'll soon after need to identify criteria or results of that issue. How do we know we've succeeded? How do we know we have actually solved that problem or issue? How do we know we've addressed it? And so that criteria are flushed out through questions like this or the next slide. And this is a little more formal one, so it's not open-ended, but the kids are, it's just a different type of survey. But these are there are several other examples that we have access to, that you have access to online or in publications regarding assessment and evaluation.
I do want to mention, Tanya did mention that we do accept phone calls. The DEP also has a speakers program, which you can find on the SEEDS website, where we do have a limited number of people who do go out to schools to do presentations on a variety of topics.
Oh, and tying in with that, you can always feel free to call us and tell us what you're looking for. We've been doing our work for many years. We have a lot of contacts. So within your county, there's probably a lot of resources. So depending on your own students, the personalities of your students, you may want several issues being looked into, investigated, explored at one time, or maybe the class will all work on one big issue, and then you may encourage them to pursue different questions, different aspects of it. So if you wanted someone to come in and talk about the issue, we can help you find the right people to do that.
There are organizations out there, including a group called ANGEE, which has a website, anjee.net. You'll find that link at the end. There are other teacher groups, New Jersey Science Teachers Association, New Jersey Earth Science Teachers Association. I'm kind of partial to that one, as I'm the president of that organization. But we'll put those links at the end of the presentation program online.
So this is these are just tips for teachers. This is general. We use several sources to pull these from. These are very common at all the sources we used. I assume you're already very familiar with inquiry-based teaching and learning, but just you will require that familiarity for these types of investigations. Learn how you're going to be coming across controversy, and you will hopefully be coming across conflicting perspectives or conflict resolution. So how do you as a teacher react to that in the classroom? How do you handle it? Just have a familiarity of your own personality and your own knowledge or skills for dealing with those issues, because it's all good stuff. This is all stuff that probably has happened in your classrooms already, and if it hasn't, it's worth cultivating and not worth shying away from. It's real life, and it actually opens up many opportunities for kids to learn from each other and to learn about how to maneuver your way through different perspectives to to forge common ground for possible solutions and actions. Something that comes up a lot when working with teachers about issues is teachers are afraid to explore something that they themselves are not aware of. We just encourage you to always admit you don't know everything. It's okay, and that's a great opportunity to turn it right back on the kids and have them go in search of the information. And we know that you will need to keep your opinions in perspective and share your opinion, but also label it as your opinion, and then to be sensitive to whatever it is that they're feeling and what their own backgrounds. We all come to the table, so to speak, with our own backgrounds, and so depending on the issue itself, it may be something that could be a hot button issue in their own families, and you may not be aware of that, or it could be a hot button issue amongst them and their friends. We encourage you to teach about complexity. I think you can see from everything we've covered that we can break it down to simple things that humans need, and natural systems, human systems, how it ties in with me, and then how it ties in with families, and how it ties in with communities, and it gets complicated. And because we have multiple perspectives and values, that also complicates it, and that's real life. So by involving them now, you are doing them a favor for later in years. Lastly, to enlist partners so that you're not going at it alone. Create a team of your go-to people that the kids can access, or you can access for assistance and guidance. Lastly, DEP offers several resources which are on the right, but I really first wanted to mention some state and national programs that are in the state, active in the state now, fairly new, and all of these, the feature is student-led investigations. So on the environment. So I'll mention PLT Green Schools first. PLT stands for Project Learning Tree, which is the top item there. Project Learning Tree, Project WET, and Project WILD are all what we call curriculum supplements. Some of you may be familiar with these materials. They're actually books that are chock full of lessons that are environment-based, and each one focuses on a natural resource. Land and trees for Project Learning Tree. WET stands for water education, and then WILD deals with wildlife, various aspects related to wildlife. Each of these curriculum supplements are available from DEP through a very low-cost one-day professional development experience at the school, and we also then do follow-up with you to help you integrate it into your classroom.
You can find links to these on the SEEDS website, or you can go to teachnjenv.org directly.
And all of those curriculum supplements are the book covers on the right side. On the left side and in the middle, PLT Green Schools is a national initiative, and it does focus on the school as a building. It's a building and system in its entirety. If you become a registered PLT Green School, It's simply an online registration process, and then there's guidance and resources in that program once you enter the program and are able to access this information for doing student-led investigations. And the students are in the driver's seat. You get kind of online assistance, and because it's sponsored by DEP, we also assist you. And there's investigations in there for water, for air, for waste and recycling, for hazardous waste, for outdoor classroom activities, for restoring and enhancing habitat on your school property, for creating outdoor classrooms, for studying forests and fields, you know, the flora and fauna around the school, on school property, and so on. So that's one opportunity, and like I said, it's student-led, science-based investigations. That same idea is carried into a different program called EcoSchools. EcoSchools is fairly, I believe it's pretty established. Of these three things shown here, it's probably, it could be the oldest program. It's international, and it's sponsored at the national level by the in the U.S. by the National Wildlife Federation. In New Jersey, it's administered, EcoSchools New Jersey is administered by New Jersey Audubon. You become registered, you have to earn points, I believe, and you go up in increments to become an EcoSchool. And you become recognized eventually as being an EcoSchool. And again, it's student-led investigations in water, solid waste, and air and waste, and healthy school kinds of things, indoor air quality, cleaning materials. And lastly, the new kid on the block is if you're familiar with the municipal program in New Jersey that's taking our municipalities by storm, Sustainable Jersey is designed, municipalities register for that program, and they commit and carry out various actions that are considered to be sustainable. Many of them are environmental, and when they show evidence of completing that action, they get points, and they go up in increments as well, and they get recognized at different levels in Sustainable Jersey. So Sustainable Jersey took that same model and launched in October their Sustainable Jersey for Schools program. It also has similar categories. I mean, their Sustainable Jersey features people, prosperity, and place. And everything that Mark and I talked about in this webinar has a good fit in all three of these programs. All three of these are action-based. Sustainable Jersey, as a school, your district or your school leadership passes a resolution. That's how you become registered, and over time a school can earn points. The students create evidence. You get points for tying the action into your curriculum, and because it's environment-based, the natural subject area to do it is science. A lot of their actions are student-led. So a lot of what we talked about today has a perfect fit, a natural home in PLT Green Schools, EcoSchools New Jersey, and then Sustainable Jersey for Schools. All three of these initiatives are very doable in urban schools, in built environments, as well as rural and suburban schools. It really doesn't matter, the outputs may be different, but using them and finding them valuable and useful is going to be equal across the board, no matter what the school setting is like.
On behalf of the Department of Environmental Protection and Rider University, we'd like to thank you for participating in this webinar. We have our contact information on the right side there, as well as our phone numbers and some of the websites that were mentioned. I'd also like to mention that this is not the last of the webinars we are doing. We are doing the next one, Changes, Patterns, Hazards, and Solutions for K-5 Teachers, on April 14th. That's in 2 weeks. From 4 to 5 p.m. Please, if you enjoyed this, you will enjoy that one as well. Again.
So we now want to release you back to the environment, continue breathing.
Now that you've been inside for all this time.
Go drink some water, consume some food, produce some waste, have a great dinner, go out and enjoy the sunshine before it gets dark. We hope to talk to you or meet you sometime in the future, and feel free to contact us if you need anything from us. Thanks for participating today.
And if you are not a member do not receive our environmental education news, go to the SEEDS website and sign up for that listserv.
Yeah, Mark does a great job with the listserv. Twice a month you'll hear from him on grant